an alternative strategy, and the first point is to reduce the defensive approach. Now, anybody who goes on social media who cares about Israel or being Jewish or has justice in mind is offended and outraged and hit the boiling point really quickly. So it's very, very hard to resist the temptation to jump in there and fight back. Doesn't do much good, but at least it shows that there's people who are holding these people accountable, are trying to. And as I mentioned many times, the charges, the allegations, the condemnations are extreme to the max. And one of the aspects of the internet, social media, is a slogan I have. Internet journalism is to journalism what Budweiser is to beer. Internet journalism is to journalism as Budweiser is to beer. So most of it is garbage. It's garbage because it doesn't realize there's nuances, it's black and white, it's really immature thinking. Hard to stay away from it. But it's important to do some other things. And most important thing is to begin an offense. Now, there's two ways of looking at the offense. The aggressive way, which I also support, is to attack and hate the haters, but not to attack them about their false notions about Jews or Israel or the Middle East, but to attack them where it hurts, like, who are they? So I figured, well, why not take a stab at the Irish, right? I've got plenty of friends who are Irish, so don't take this too personally. But even though Ireland right now is a pretty progressive country, they've been a hotbed. And they claim because they were oppressed by the British for many years, which is true, that they identify with the Palestinians. However, Ireland had no right to abortion, no right to birth control, was always the centerpiece of the Catholic Church, including a huge percentage of those priests all over the world who were rightfully convicted of child sexual abuse. Huge number and across the world. And Boston, where I live, Irish dominated, it was the first place that broke the story. Much more relevant is a famous racist, fascist Irish priest, Father Charles Coughlin, at a nationally syndicated radio program that was on, I think, daily or weekly. And he was on in the 30s, had a huge audience. His name was Father Coughlin, Irish American. And he was finally taken off because his sympathies for fascism, his anti-Semitism, and I think his sympathies for the Nazis became too much. Moving forward, Boston, really Irish-dominated city, had been, maybe still is, the most racist large city in the US and the most anti-Semitic for a long time. During the busing crisis in the 1970s, of black students being bused, maybe it was the 80s, I think 70s, from Roxbury, a black neighborhood, to South Boston, which was the heart and soul and strongest collection of Irish Americans in the whole area. They were attacked, they were beaten up. It was a huge national controversy that lasted and lasted and lasted. And I remember I was doing some coverage of it, a little bit, for a small AM radio station. And I went to this rally for an Irish American politician who was running for mayor. And the person who introduced her, this is in Boston, was Governor George Wallace. He's no longer alive. He was like one of the most famous Southern reactionary, racist politicians in the country at the time. And it was definitely felt like a neo-fascist rally. And there was this group called the South Boston Marshals who were there. in full jacket, full gear, and it was really scary. It was really the bottom of that society. That's not the way most Irish are, of course, but neither are most Jews Netanyahu, right? So the idea of lumping everybody together is an absurd way to deal with things. However, if they're going to do it to us, we got to throw something back at them, all right? And there is no unified them, but it's just one segment.